Hey guys, welcome back to Lyre. This is Lyre chapter 11. I think after this there's only like 2 chapters left. So we might be finishing Lyre soon. Anyway, I guess Richter's trial is on the horizon, so I don't know. Hopefully Richter won't die. Let's keep reading. I've avoided sleep for the past few days. Or rather, sleep has been avoiding me. No matter how much I yearn or how hard I try, it always seems just out of reach. The tender feeling of resting my body into the warm embrace of unconsciousness feels like a distant memory. Hope turns to sand falling between my fingers, and my determination is like the flame of a candle. Can't let it go out, though. I feel it's the only thing I have left of myself. Feels like it's been ages since I've closed my eyes. My eyelids feel like dry leather, and the eyes beneath them burn with a searing pain. Reality feels like a blur. It's a similar feeling to when I wake up from a strange dream. It takes a moment to process everything around me. Even without any sleep, I still dream. My eyes are open and I'm wide awake, but I still dream. I dream of Lyle, stripped of his armor and thrown before the steps of the throne. His scar over his eye bleeds, dripping blood onto the branches of the throne. Each drop sprouts a flower, blooming a beautiful crimson color. When the blood is spent, the flowers wilt. With that, a knife slides between my ribs. I dream of Liz, clad in the armor of an angel. She rides a bear, eyes black as night and fur matted with blood. Her gaze is cold and conflicting. Again, lightning strikes outside the window as my rack of antlers rip through the drapes. I then dream of Raynar. He stands before a window, left antler made of gold, his towering figure bathed in red light from the flames below. A long, slender sword falls from his hand, clattering to the floor. Cold steel drags across my throat. My dreams have slowly begun to merge with my visions. Like the mind's eye, they all swirl into a spiral, mixing together like a whirlpool, dragging me down deeper and deeper into the chasm of the past. The visions mock me as I seek out answers. I'm too stubborn to realize I'm already out of time, I suppose. The day of the trial has arrived, and I'm still no closer than I was 9 days ago. Can't help but wonder if I would be closer had I not tried to rush things. Dwelling on it won't do me any good, though. Sorry, Tygren. There's a long silence, followed by a ringing in my ears. At first, I think they're not going to respond, but after a few moments, they let out a reply. Don't. They're muffled, almost like they're talking into a pillow. Tygren? Are you even there? Another long moment of silence before they respond. This time a bit more clear. Yes. I'm still here, but not for long. I hear an uneasy tone in their voice as the words catch in their throat. What do you mean? The trial is today. This time their tone is a bit more stern. It's our connection. It's growing weaker by the day. Our connection? I think back to when they were first beginning to reach me. Seems like forever ago, but in reality it's only been a few weeks. Their voice was so muffled, and sometimes I barely noticed them. Why is our connection weak? Will it get better? Tygren takes a deep breath and answers. They sound like they're on the other side of a door. It's not your fault at all. The fault lies entirely with me. The reason our connection is growing weak is because I've been pushing you. I wanted to make sure that you would have enough time to train, but I also wanted you to play it safe. I now realize I've only made things worse. Don't say that. I can feel that I'm getting close. With just a few more tries, I'm sure I'll be able to figure all of this out. Try to put on an optimistic attitude, but it comes off more as false hope. I'm sure they can sense that. You don't need to reassure me. If one thing is true, it's the fact that I've failed you. Nobody has ever trained as hard and as fast as you have. You have more potential than I ever imagined. My power is simply not what it used to be. It wasn't enough. I stand up and walk over to the window, resting my arms on the cold stone in the opening. What do you mean by that? If anything, you've given me a chance. It's something I have to admit. Even with all the rules and restrictions put on their power, and all the knowledge they have to keep to themselves, they've only been trying to help me. I also can't help but remember that this relationship goes both ways. They're helping me so I can do their bidding. Can't help but wonder, why me? I know I wasn't exactly chosen, but it feels odd that all of this would start to happen the moment I end up in this position. Coincidental, even. I only mean that. I'm limited in my ability, but it's because of a sacrifice I had to make. Sacrificing what? Think back to Alverton, the monkey from the vision I had, and feel a lump in my throat. Nothing like that, I assure you. They read into my mind again. I'm a bit used to it by now, but not entirely numb to the feeling. And then again, the thought of them sacrificing Alverton was almost as intrusive as Tygren is. My powers were once beyond your comprehension. I was on a similar standing with the higher gods. Their voice wavers, and it's like listening to them while my ears are clogged with water. We were all creators in our own right, controlling laws and ideas, helping the world turn. It sounds less interactive than the role I play now, I understand, but the power was immense. However, it was nothing without control. Like a farm, crops can grow and animals can breed, but it will always need a farmer, someone to control and guide. I was the first of the gods to realize this. Hearing them speak of the higher gods causes me to feel a bit sick. Trying to understand it all is a bit easier as time goes on, but the overwhelming feeling of it never really goes away. The sacrifice that they mentioned also doesn't leave my mind. The sacrifice you made, does it have anything to do with Alverton? It was for Alverton. I sacrificed my power for Alverton and the world he knew. The state of the world was heading down a path of decay, and I knew I had to do something. I brought it to the attention of my fellow gods. They were quite content with seeing things playing out, knowing that they could always start over. I was not willing to settle for such an outcome. I can hear a distant rumbling sound, and I cannot determine if it's coming from within my head or somewhere else. I propose giving up most of my power and freedom in order to give the world a second chance. With this trade, I would be allowed an avatar, a mortal vessel which I would be able to use as an emissary of sorts. It would be able to understand past mistakes and pave a path for a brighter future. It would act as a guide for the world, and I would act as a guide for them. Thanks for answering my questions, but why are you telling me about all of these other things? I tell you this because it is relevant. Is there any way I can stop our connection from growing weaker? Can you do anything about it? Yes. That sacrifice I made for Alverton, I'm going to make a similar sacrifice for you. What? Don't think too much about it. The ribbon that binds us is weakening, and I need to take action. You've done your part to get us out of this situation, so allow me to do mine. What are you gonna do? What are you talking about? Someone's gonna come down here for me any minute now. I need you. Don't worry. I'm just gonna consult with the higher gods. The voice becomes more and more distant, and I can't help but feel like I'm losing a part of myself. If everything goes the way I plan, you'll come out of this with your head still on your shoulders. I will be back. Please take care and trust in me. Step away from the window, as looking up into the air as if they were standing right there. You have to believe me when I tell you that everything will turn out okay. No, even if it seems like it won't. You have to have faith. Their voice trails off with each word. You don't have to do this. I'm close, I can... Tygren? There isn't a response. For the first time in weeks, my mind feels empty. I clumsily sit down on the cold slab of stone. The silence is almost numbing. It's like a weight was lifted off my chest. Something inside of me was taking along with it. Tygren? Still receive no response. This can't be happening. No. Please tell me that this isn't happening. It's not even the fact that they're gone. As abrupt as it was, I know they'll be back. They said they would. The problem that circles my mind now is that they're about to do something drastic. Is this gonna affect things? Can I still even use my powers? Before I can even feel like I'm closing my eyes, my consciousness jumps from one point to another, and a slight feeling of relief washes over me. It does nothing to quell the anxiety, though. The colorful walls of the chasm dance by as I stand there in the midst of it all. Winds of shimmering dust fly by at a speed similar to when I first arrived here, only reminding me of just how stressed I truly am. Tygren! I call their name, yelling it out into the tunnel, but I get no sign of response. The winds only pick up slightly, and the echoing voices of the past flow by, sending chills through my body. I start to feel more and more aggravated as the situation settles in. If you can hear me, please come back. You don't need to take such drastic measures. Even if you do, we can talk about it more here, right? Again, no response. The anger swells more and more inside me. Weeks of frustration have finally reached their boiling point. You stupid god! Why can't you just tell me these things? Between your botched plan to farm our world and the other god's desire to watch it burn, I've had it up to here with everyone's shit. The wind picks up, but I stand firmly in place. If you want me to shoulder everyone's burdens, including yours, then just tell me. I turn around, looking up and down the tunnel, trying to see if I can get any reaction from anyone. Nothing happens. Damn it all. Lean forward in my seated position, lowering my head down between my legs. Still able to use my power, right? Ty never said anything about me losing that. Even so, I don't think I have enough stamina. Any sense of a weight being lifted off my shoulders is now gone, as the numbing feeling of dread creeps down my back. I squint my eyes, trying to concentrate on the vision in my mind. At night. I need to know who did it. Just a hint, any hint that can give me a chance. Damn it. The vision comes across even messier this time, only granting me a slight visual. Everything's falling apart before my eyes. Each time I try to have a vision, it's like looking into a mirror before someone shatters it. Every time I get so much as a glimpse, the vision collapses and I'm thrown back into reality. Controlling what I want has gotten easier. Seeing it has become more and more difficult with each day that passes. Lay down on the bed, trying to relax my body on the cold stone surface. A wave of exhaustion begins to overwhelm me. Laying there, staring at the ceiling, I contemplate falling asleep. Someone will be down here sometime today to drag me out of the cell. Don't know when though, so I might as well try to rest. Gonna need as much energy as possible. For the past few days, all I've been doing is dwelling on the past. Reaching out for a vision so close, yet so far away at the same time. For the first time in several days, I actually feel tired. Is it because Tygren's gone? No, I don't think that's the reason. I'm not responsible for my stupid decisions. My strategy failed me. That's all there is to it. Haven't done anything. Haven't changed a bit. All the power I have, and all I can do is sit idly by. My eyes rolled open as the sound of metal clinking together brings me out of my sleep. I sit up and look over to the doorway, where I see a turnkey trying to open it. A feeling of dread washes over me. How long was I asleep for? Glance out the window and see the sun is higher in the sky. It's most likely close to noon at this point. I've only been asleep for a short while. The cold air from the window wafts onto my body, and I wonder how I was able to sleep at all. I get up and move over to the other side of the cell. There's 2 turnkeys standing by the door. One of them is wrestling with the lock on the door, while the other stands next to him, holding some kind of cloth, shoes, and a bucket of hot steam rising from the top. The first one is muttering some swears under his breath, while the other stands there silently, looking down at the ground. Behind them stands a castle guard. He's a lynx, clad in basic armor, with a large green cloth draped around his neck and shoulders. Turnkey unlocks the door and swings it open, banging into the wall behind it. I don't really know what to do, so I just stand there, backed against the wall, looking at them. Still barely clothed, only wearing the pants from the ball. They're scuffed and stained with mud, looking more like a rusty brown compared to the midnight black they were on that night. I look closer and realize that the bundle of cloth the turnkey is carrying looks like a pair of neatly folded clothes. Knowing that they're going to give me some clothes is a bit of a good feeling. Hate to be tossed before the throne as a dirty man in rags. Better be the dirty man in clean clothes. However, the bucket of water might be to clean myself. We step into the cell, the first turnkey stepping off to the side, while the second one walks in, setting the clothes down. "Stand still." He says this in a raspy voice, which travels out from under his hood like a growl in a bear cave. At first I don't understand what they intend. Then I watch as the silent turnkey brings back the bucket and begins to heave it forward. Wait! Barely have any time to protest, let alone dodge as the hot water leaps through the air onto me. The initial shock is horrific as the heat surges over my body. Some of it gets into my mouth and it tastes salty. I throw myself back a bit, backing against the wall and blinking my eyes. Why would you do that? Neither of them respond. After a few seconds, the feeling of pain goes away. I'm soon just standing there, dripping from head to toe in warm water. I'm far from being warm myself, though, as a cold breeze rushes in through the window, blowing onto my skin and sending goosebumps all over my exposed arms. Turn around. I look up and the other turnkey is being handed a second bucket by the guard. I turn around. Reluctantly turning around, my body feels stiff and tilt my head downwards, clenching the muscles in my neck, bracing for the impact of hot water on my back. It only takes a moment for the stinging wave of water to be thrown onto me, trickling down my back and soaking my pants. A muddy puddle has formed on the ground around my feet. I don't really feel clean. The guard nods to the silent turnkey, and they walk forward, picking up the clothes and setting them on the bed. "Those will be sitting on the bed for you once you're ready." Okay. The turnkey walks up to me and pulls a rough-looking sponge from the bucket. Before I can question them, they press into my side and begin to soppily scrub away at my skin. What? What are you doing? Stop. They pull back and look at the guard. He frowns and looks at me. "We need to clean you before you present yourself to the king." As the guard says this, the turnkey picks up where they left off and continues to scrub. This is ridiculous. I'm not a pig being prepared for slaughter. I grab the sponge from their paw rather easily and throw it into the bucket. A small bit of water left in the bucket flies into the air, splashing on the ground in front of the guard's shoes. I'm perfectly capable of washing myself. I say this while glaring at him. He steps forward and reaches into the bucket, pulling the sponge from the bottom. Rising back up, he shoves it into my chest with a bit of force, gritting his teeth as I'm backed into the corner. "They're going to do their job and you're going to be quiet. Then when they're done, we're going to escort you to the trial." They push harder on my chest, the metal of their gloves sticking into my skin. "Or I could bring you there now, naked and shivering like the pathetic worm you..." His words escape him as his attention is drawn to the hallway. "Or..." The rhythmic sound of steel clinking together travels up the hall, getting closer with each thud. Bjorn? I imagine the large bear trudging his way down the hall. I can feel my heart beating in my chest as the guard's fist presses me against the wall. When he was standing in the doorway, I didn't realize how big he was. Lately, I've only been visited by people either around my height or much smaller than me. I grab his arm and push him off of me with what little strength I have. "Get off!" I actually managed to make him stumble back, their full attention on the hallway. It snaps them out of it, however, and they push me back harder into the wall, letting out a snarl. The person walking down the damp corridor now sounds like they're just a few cells down. It can't be Bjorn. Whoever it is, their footsteps are swift and quick. They actually seem to pick up in pace, too. Maybe they'll stop this. My legs are shaking a bit as I stand there, pushed against the gritty wall of the cell. The two turnkeys stand off to the side of us, their paws clasped and their heads drooping. The repetitive noise of feet on the dirty ground comes up to a stop in the doorway. It's just Lyle. Lyle! He slides through the entrance, his tail stiff and shoulders high. He's wearing a helmet, shaped to the head of a wolf, with a large plume coming out the top. I recall seeing it on an armor rack in his room. Even in my dreams, it would rest there, collecting dust. Out. The two turnkeys walked to the door, one of them handing the ring of keys to Lyle. But I was just... leave now. I slid down the wall and fallen into a seated position, like shaking slightly. Seeing him and hearing his voice is the biggest relief I've had in weeks. The castle guard walks to the doorway and stops next to Lyle. You're not even allowed here, if I remember correctly. Can't read the expression on his face through the helmet, but Lyle only turns his head slightly, looking down at the links. As the person who made the arrest, it's my duty to bring them to trial. If you have a problem with it, bring it up with your commander. I'm sure he'd love for you to waste his time with such questions. The guard clenches his fist and scoffs. You'll be needing these then. The guard drops a pair of shackles into Lyle's paw. Lyle leans in, his voice brought down to a quiet tone. Oh, and if I ever catch you pushing around prisoners again, I'll make sure your commander has you shoveling shit in the stables for weeks. Understood. After that, the guard walks off in a huff. Lyle turns his head away from the door and looks down at me. As I hear the guard's footsteps trail off into the distance, I find it hard to get any words out of my mouth. For a few moments, we both just stay there in place, motionless. The only thing moving is Lyle's tail, as it twitches from side to side. I apologize for the smell. That's what the helmet. Suddenly, he launches himself towards me, throwing the shackles to the side and falling to his knees. He takes me in his arms, wrapping them around me tightly. His body gives off a comforting warmth. There's even a faint smell of coconut. I just sit there and let him hug me, my body in shock. For a few seconds, I hug him back, his fur rubbing against my face. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can feel him shaking slightly, and even hear him sniffle. What are you apologizing for? You'd better not be apologizing on behalf of that moody king. The shaking continues, but he quickly starts to laugh. I've missed you, Richter. It's only been a couple weeks, but it feels like ages. All I could do every day was wonder how you were getting by. You were constantly on my mind. He pulls back, planting his paws on my shoulders and looking down at me through his helmet. I can sort of see his eyes behind the visor, big and concerned. I look down, several emotions overwhelming me all at once. Embarrassment, happiness, sadness. I can tell that I'm blushing without even looking in the mirror. My face feels hot, the rest of my body is chilly. The water from that bucket bath drips from the tips of my hair onto the ground. I look back up at Lyle, and he's still letting out nervous chuckles. I like your hair. You look kind of cool with it down like that. Even through his helmet, I can tell he's forcing a smile. Before I know it, tears begin running down my cheeks. Feels good, though. He takes me in his arms again, and we both silently sit there, hugging. Sob into his chest for what seems like minutes. The thing that messes with me the most is the fact that I'm just now realizing how much I missed him. I'd only seen him in my dreams and in some visions. But through it all, most of the time he felt like he was just there. Any emotions I could get were just drowned in other feelings and thoughts. Holding him in my arms helps quell those doubts. Having him here by my side is just pure bliss. After a couple more minutes, I pull away and look up at him. "Missed you so much, Lyle." He lowers his head. "Really did never stop thinking about you. Not for a moment." Leans back in the seated position, his tail swishing across the floor like a broom. Raise up my hands and grabs the sides of his helmet. "They making you wear this for the special occasion?" No. All of the guards have to wear these, actually. Only on certain occasions, though." He wrings his paws nervously, and I brush my hand through the fur on his neck. "Can you let me take it off? I want to see your handsome face." I begin to lift the helmet, and he quickly brings his paws up to my hands to stop them. His paws stay there for a moment, and he lets out a sigh. Lower my hands, and he removes his helmet. Aw. What I see next makes my stomach twist into knots. He has a black eye. It's swollen to the point where he can't even open it. Oh my god. I take his face in my palm and caress it. I'm afraid my dedication to both the sword and the arts has left me middling in both. I gently rub my hand across his face, making sure not to cause him any pain. I start to get angry, knowing that this is all probably because of me. That's nonsense. Everyone says you're a gifted swordsman. What actually happened? You'll learn about it all during the trial. Did you get into a fight with someone? Did someone attack you? He lowers his head in shame. All you need to know is that it was Bjorn, that he's in worse shape than I am. Bjorn attacked you? And you won? Doesn't lift his head, still looking down at his lap. Not really. I lost the duel. That doesn't make much sense. I'm confused. Why would Bjorn be in worse shape? He was out for blood, and I didn't want either of us to die, so... He pauses, the words catching in his throat. I don't really want to talk about it if that's okay. The fight itself wasn't too important. I'm about to protest, when an all too familiar noise echoes from outside the window. The bells start to toll, the noise bouncing off the walls outside and filling the cell with a reverberating noise. I look back up at Lyle, and he's staring at the window too. He seems nervous, was frozen in place, and I don't blame him. It's finally begun. I'll tell you about it all later, after we prove your innocence. He stands up from his seated position and holds out his paw. It'll be better if you arrive as soon as possible. I take his paw and he pulls me to my feet. You're right. Look down at my body, filthy and dripping with water, the seat of my pants covered with mud. Picking up the sponge and bucket, I turn to Lyle, who's examining his helmet. If it's alright, I just need a few minutes to, Oh, yeah. I'll be out in the hall if you need me. Okay. Damn. After a few minutes, I manage to get myself relatively clean. The sponge actually does a good job at getting most of the dirt and everything else off my body. It's not a perfect bath, but it actually feels really good, aside from the shivers running up and down my skin. Also, once all the water is used up, I turned the bucket over and stood on top so I could wash my feet. However, I should have placed it closer to the bed with the clothes. Lyle! Yeah? He appears in the doorway, his eyes darting up to mine after glancing down at my exposed genitals. Can you hand me those clothes on the bed? I don't want to get my feet dirty walking over there. Without saying anything, he quickly walks over to the stone slab and hands me the cloth for the underwear. While he does this, it looks like he's avoiding looking at my body. I take the underwear and start tying it around my waist. You don't have to avert your gaze. Am I really that grubby looking? No, it's not that you're grubby. I'm just trying to be polite. I love looking at your body. He stops halfway through his statement, and we both stand there in silence for a moment. I know you do. I fasten the underwear around myself, and he turns away in his flustered state. Eventually does look back at me, and I even see him softly smile. I get the undergarments fastened around my waist neatly, but when I look up at him, he keeps his eyes trained on my torso. For a second, his gaze rises back up to mine. Hmm? Pants. Point to the simple pair of pants sitting on the bed. Sorry. He grabs the pair of trousers and hands them to me. I slip into them pretty fast, and he hands me the shirt. Put that on pretty quickly too. The sleeves are short, and it feels a bit tight. Lyle tosses me a pair of socks, and I slip them onto my feet, leaning against him for support. Step off of the bucket into the old pair of shoes. They don't fit me too well. A bit too big, actually. I can walk in them, though, and even so, I don't think I'll be doing too much walking anyways. What about your jacket? I look behind him at the jacket that he's nodding towards. It's one I wore that night, damp and hanging from the bars of the cell door. Will the throne room be cold? Not really. I should be fine then. I walk past him, patting him on the back in a sarcastic manner. Stopping in the doorway, I turn around to look at him. He's standing in the center of the cell, helmet in one hand and shackles in the other. I look down at them and realize that, for a moment, I had forgotten about everything. Only for a moment. He locks eyes with me, and then looks around the cell once more. Lyle. He stares at the bed, the cold slab of stone, with one corner draped in a ratty blanket, and the other corner draped with my wet clothes from earlier. After a few seconds, he walks up to me and holds out the shackles. I hate to do this, but... It's okay, just do it. He pauses for a moment before nervously clasping them around my wrists. They clink slightly as his paws lock them in place. I'm going to make whoever killed Raynar pay for what they've done. I mean we, right? He looks into my eyes, a sad smile gracing over his lips. Of course. He takes my hands in his paws and rubs his thumbs over my palms. For some reason, I can tell that he wants to cry. It's just a feeling that I get from his paws. Lyle? He squeezes my hand slightly and looks up. Yes? If things go well, there's something I'd like to talk with you about. Of course. Even if everything goes horribly, and I get sentenced to life in the dungeons or worse, I want you to visit me here so that I can talk with you. Promise me you will. Without hesitation, he closes my hands together in between his paws and clasps them tightly. The chains linking my arms together rattle as he does this. I promise. Once again, the bells outside begin to ring. Lyle leads me to the doorway and turns around. You go on ahead while I lock the cell door. Okay. I hesitantly take a couple steps forward before walking down the long tunnel. As I walk, the feeling of comfort I had while with Lyle starts to fade away. And I remember why I'm here and what's going to happen. Amazingly, being around Lyle made the emotional part of my brain forget about all of it. But now it all comes crashing down upon me like a roof collapsing. My heart feels like it fell from my chest and hit the floor. I try to pick myself up mentally and continue to walk forward. That's all I can really do at this point. Just have to try and get through this. I try to take my mind off of it by looking around. Never actually gotten to see most of the hall leading to my cell. I pass the first two cells and take a peek inside of them. They both look pretty similar to each other, but they're definitely different compared to the one I was put in. Each have a window with bars on it, and both cells are very small. At least half the size of my own. There's also no bed or anything else for that matter. Each cell is completely empty aside from the shackles hanging from the brick wall. I hear Lyle's footsteps approaching from behind me. I really did put you in the good cell, you know. I wish you didn't have to put me in the cell at all. Me too. We continue walking. His helmet underneath his arm, and his other arm is draped over my back, his paw rubbing my shoulder. The chains hanging from my wrists clink together lightly with each step as we make our way up the stairs. How many dungeons are there? Most people only know about the first 2 levels. You were placed on the first one. It's a series of cells that were built as part of the castle's foundation. That's why each of them has a window? Yes. Well, some of them do. We're now in the main part of the castle, and it's honestly a breath of fresh air. We pass a few people going about their business. They don't pay us any mind, aside from a few stares at us as we pass. When the castle was being built, they were actually being used as rooms for the workers. Although they weren't locked in them like you were. They were basically used like barracks. But the plans for them to be dungeons had been decided in the initial schematics. We come across a fork in the hallway, but instead of going down the corridor that leads to the throne room, we turn left. The voices of people ahead start to fade away as we pace down the other hall. Isn't the throne room that way? We won't be going through the main entrance. Oh, that's actually a relief. I prefer not to be sneered at while walking up the aisle. Anyways, what about the second level? The second level is meant for more of a permanent stay. It's underneath the castle's foundation, embedded deep within the cliffside. The heat from the hot springs can actually be felt down there, and you never see the light of day. You don't want to be put down there, and honestly, I'd do anything in my power to stop that from happening. It's horrible down there. Hearing all of this causes goosebumps to form on my arms. Thankfully, they don't get used too often. Are there more levels? He doesn't answer right away, not until we turn down a very narrow hall. There's 2 castle guards standing by a door at the end of the hall. They're both cats, out of earshot and talking with each other. There's one more level, but it hasn't been used in ages. And it definitely won't be used for you. We get closer to the end of the hall, and he stops and takes his arm off my shoulder, turning to me. Okay, the trial will be starting soon, so I just want to go over everything with you. I'm sure you've been thinking about it as long as you've been in those cells, so you're more than prepared. Somewhat. But I think we should still go over some of it. Okay. There will be a jury consisting of high nobility. You may recognize some of them. From that dreaded party? Hey, you got to dance with Captain Lyle Reed from the Royal Guard. Was it really all bad? I shoot a look at him in a deadpan manner. I'm only kidding. I know. Trust me, I wish I could block out all that bad stuff from that night. Me too. Anyways, there's going to be 7 people on this jury, including Elizabeth. After everything is said and done, they will give their verdicts. Once all the votes have been read, the king will give his verdict. The king will give his verdict, and his word is final. Very rarely does it differ from what the jury believes, though. Even if they all voted me innocent, I doubt Adrius would agree. You never know. We'll just have to see. Honestly, I don't know what it'll decide. What else do you know for sure? Thinks for a moment, fiddling with a plume on his helmet. Each person even remotely involved in what will happen will testify. They will either testify against you or for you. They may even do both, depending on the information they give. It's very different from how it's done in Erin. I'll be going first since I made the arrest. Also, another thing in our favor is the fact that Bjorn is currently unable to testify. He reaches around and grips the handle of his sword confidently. Nadrius isn't too keen on delaying the trial. Will testify in his place. Instead, Finn will testify in place of him, detailing the events and how he saw them. Finn is a good man, and will most definitely tell the truth. They will also have your account of what happened along with mine. As long as there's no contradictions, the jury will accept it. That could either be good or bad for me, depending on what Finn saw. Yes. Like usual, everything seems a bit unfortunate. Yes, that seems to be the ongoing theme. Is there anything else you might be able to tell me? That's all I really know. I'm also not sure what the punishment will be. I can think of a few things. Lets out a sigh, his breath tremulously exiting his lungs. No. Well, you know more than I do what happens to people guilty of such crimes. No, I won't let it happen. I reach up and take his face in my hands. Yes, you will. No, I'll never. No, listen to me. You're gonna do everything in your power to prove my innocence, and I'll do the same. And if it's all for naught, and I'm thrown in a cell, we'll continue fighting the odds. But if the worst happens, you're to do nothing. I can't stand the thought of roping you into a punishment you don't deserve. You don't deserve it either. I can feel my eyes beginning to water. That's not the point. I say this in a hushed whisper. Testifying for me is already putting you in a dangerous spot. I don't want you dying on my behalf. Tears begin to form at the corners of my eyes as he looks down at the ground. His breathing is heavy, and his tail is tucked between his legs. Let's contemplate the horrible scenario where I'm sentenced to death. You are going to do nothing to stop it from happening. My eyes are welling with tears, and my heart is racing. I can feel a headache coming on. Afterwards, you will mourn and weep as I know you will, because you are good and kind. And when the mourning is done, you will move on. You'll find someone else who will love and treasure you as I do. And I know you'll try to make things work, because that's what you've done since the moment I've met you. You ask me to be reasonable, but it won't make things better. I'll be loyal to you until the day I die. Would that be the same loyalty as what you've shown this kingdom? Your loyalty to Lyre has tied you down and made you its prisoner. For a knight, a servant, I will not have you make the same pledge to me. His breathing relaxes. I can tell he's thinking of a way to reply. The bells also begin to ring again. I made that pledge when King Raynar asked it of me. I made that promise. He hangs his head low, his muzzle almost buried in the fluff of his neck. Lyle, I love you. For most of my life, I've never even known for sure what love was, but now that it has been ripped into my soul, I can feel it. And I know that you love me too, as you've told me before. I've made a great impact on your life, but if the worst should happen, don't let your loyalty to me chain you down as well. Don't. Because if you're loyal to me, you'll only be joining me in my grave. Please don't. But if you love me, you let me go. Richter. Even if it means tarnishing my own name more than I already have, will stop at nothing to prove your innocence. I can see the pain in his eyes, and I know this is a hard topic for him, but I needed to bring it up. I know you will. It's in your nature. He takes his arm to his face and wipes the tears from his eyes. As he does that, he bends down and wipes the tears from my eyes with his paws. The rough pads gently brush against my eyelids, and I cradle my face in his paw, its warmth comforting. We stand there for a few minutes, the air heavy with the weight of all that's happened. One of the castle guards approaches us, their green cloak swishing with their tail. The other guard walks through the door to the other side. A commotion can be heard as he slips through. Sir Reed? Lyle takes me from his embrace and turns to them. Yes? They're ready for the accused to be brought out soon. He glances at me with his cat-like eyes. Lately, everyone either avoids looking at me or can't take their eyes off me. He turns to me, a confident look covering his obvious worry. Are you ready? Does it matter? He lets out a sigh. I guess not. Lyle takes my hand and we walk to the door at the end of the hall. When the door opens, walk through and you should find your place before the throne. We make it to the door and stand in front of it. Lyle leans against the wall, resting the side of his head up against one of the bricks. I stand across from the door, staring through the crack in it. I can hear the faintest noise of chatter coming from the other side. My skin is crawling and it begins to itch. Start to feel hot, and the taste of my own spit begins to become more noticeable. Reaching behind my head, chains ringing together and resting on my chest, I pull my hair out of my face. Lyle continues to rest against the wall, silent and calm. He's most likely thinking, so I decide to leave him to it, as I don't want to disturb his thoughts at a time like this. I should be concentrating as well. I close my eyes and try once again to trigger a vision of that night. Nothing happens. I open them again, and my body shivers slightly. For some reason, it felt as if several people were watching me. There was something else, though. Comforting hand on my shoulder? The feeling goes away, and I wonder if I imagined it. With the way things have been going lately, I doubt it. I brush it off, and instead try to have a different vision. Something easier, just to make sure I didn't lose the ability altogether. That familiar experience of losing all of that feeling around me, only for it to come back, overtakes me once again. My feet feel as if they hit the ground very hard, sending a shock through my body. The ground, however, is soft. Whoever this is, they're looking down at the ground, leaning against something hard. It's most likely a tree. You can see the spots of light being cast between the leaves onto the ground beneath their feet. Those are Lyle's feet. I knew for sure they're his. Their fur is the same color and everything. As I realize this, I start to notice everything else. The fluff around his neck and the swing tail above his lower back. Only a few seconds into the vision, I hear a soft voice from behind me. You mean it? Of course. You promise? Richter. Lyle's slightly shaking me by the shoulders as I come out of the vision. Has his helmet on, his ears standing tall. Come on, we have to go. Look ahead and see the door has been opened. The castle guard standing on the other side. He takes my hand and leads me through the door, the light from the throne room blinding at first. We exit the doorway and find ourselves in the back of the hall near the windows. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of people in the hall. They're all backed up against the large windows and pillars, standing in sectioned crowds. I've never actually seen this many people in the throne room before. They all chat amongst themselves, their voices bouncing off of the walls, forming a cacophony of nonsense. Just as I was starting to get used to the noise and presence of everyone in the room, they very suddenly quiet down. Just like that, everyone's eyes are on me. It's a horrible feeling. I'm reminded of that night once again. Every person in the ballroom standing around and staring at Lyle and I. It's happening again. I even start to feel the anger that took over during that awful moment, but I try to suppress it. Lyle lets go of my hand, and instead holds onto the chain of the shackles, gently leading me to the center of the throne room. I try to stare at the ground as we pass everyone, head down, in order to avoid drawing any more attention. I can't help but peek around at the corners of my eye. The left side of the throne room is lined with chairs. There are 9 chairs in total, but only 7 people are seated in the row. I recognize a few of them from the solstice. 2 owls, tall and gray, their faces judgmental and stern. The male owl is clad in crimson fabrics, and the female one wears a teal dress. I also recognize the vixen sitting next to them, her seafoam green dress embroidered with flowers and vines. Her smile from that night is gone, replaced with a neutral expression. There's some new faces, though. At least, people I've never noticed before. The one out of them all that catches my eye is the large bear. It looks to be almost as big as Bjorn. So big that his chest has considerable space between the chairs on either side of him, to give the people sitting in those chairs room to sit. Not only is he as big as Bjorn, but he looks like him too, aside from the fact that his fur is black. On his left sits an elk. His antlers branch out, taking a wide amount of space above his head. From the prongs of his antlers hang 4 metallic leaves, each one a different color. He looks to be very aged, but sits calmly and steady, like an old tree. Next to him is what looks like a stoat. His clothes are flashy and green, honeyed golden ribbons draping down the leaves and lining his vest. I recognized the crest on his cape, the four-leaf clover being pierced by an arrow. I saw banners flying on the walls of Radon Vale when I passed down there on my way to Lyre. They have a good relation with Aaron, if my memory serves me right. Finally, at the end of the row of chairs, closest to the throne, I see Liz. Whiz. She sits in the chair, her hands placed in her lap with one leg crossed over the other. Like everyone else, she's the only one not looking at me. She seems to be actually avoiding eye contact altogether. That is, till she looks up and her eyes meet mine. I can't exactly understand the expression on her face and what it means, but she's clearly a bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's my appearance, or the fact that the day is finally here. Either way, doubt she's here because she wants to be. Next to those chairs is a small table. Can't tell from here, but it looks like there's some evidence on it. On the other side of the throne room, there's another cluster of chairs, and a few people are sitting in them. Kadaj is among them, his green clothing sitting vibrantly in the light, making him stand out like a sore thumb. It helps because I had almost forgotten what he'd looked like. The cat looks at me with a curious and almost concerned expression. Staggering the steps leading up to the throne are 7 royal guards. Finn is among them, his helmet on and facing forward, posture straight and shoulders back. There's 2 empty spots among the guards, which I assume are meant for Bjorn and Lyle. Lyle continues to lead me to the bottom of the steps, making sure not to tug on the shackles. I'm also helping by keeping up with him. It's dead quiet in the throne room now, aside from our footsteps. I expected to hear people whispering in the crowd, but nobody is uttering a word. Look up at the throne, a large wooden mass basking in the light from the windows. On the left of the throne stands Leaf. Haven't seen him in a long time, but he looks the same as he did the last time I saw him. After Lyle and I come to a stop at the bottom of the steps, Leaf notices me looking at him. He looks away, but it doesn't matter as my eyes are drawn to the true centerpiece of the room. It's the boy. There he sits, the crowned king of Lyre. The throne looks small compared to him, and he sits perfectly straight in the seat, arms resting at either side. Adrius doesn't take his amber eyes off me for a moment as he leans forward in his throne, looking down at me with displeasure. It's almost like he's looking right through me into my very soul. On his right stands a figure wearing a green cloak. The robe is priestly, and their arms are brought together within their sleeves. I've never actually seen them before. They take a few steps down the stairs and stand behind the guards, before raising their paws into the air. All-powerful Tygren, we pray that you guide the members of this trial towards the truth. I can't say for certain. I'm pretty sure I see Adrius's eyes roll. Guide our king towards true justice, and may his judgment be swift and true. For he who sits at the throne of Lyre shall be righteous and protect all from the wicked. Even given my situation, I can't help but laugh at the idea that Tygren might not even be able to hear this person. Adrius sits up and I feel his gaze pierce through me once more. Lord Richter of Aaron. Lyle still stands by my side, looking forward, his paw grasping the chains to my shackles lightly. Yes? The word comes out a bit raspy, so I clear my throat. He rubs his hand on the arm of his seat before continuing. You have been accused of murdering King Raynar Ossian on the night of the winter solstice. Do you deny it? Yes. Very well. We shall proceed then. As king, I will be judging this trial. The rules are very simple. Leans back in his seat, relaxing his voice. You will speak only when spoken to, or when you have been permitted to speak without permission. Do you understand this? Of course. Good. Along with my judgment, there is a jury of lords and ladies from all across Lyre's territory. The hooded figure gestures to the nobility sitting off to my left. Lord Oscar Grimdell, Lord of Grimrock. The large bear stands from his seat, bowing to Adrius. The chainmail on his body clinks together with every movement he makes. Lord Oliver Oswell, Lord of North Osrin. The first owl stands, bowing to Adrius. As he bows, he extends his wings behind his body, fluttering the cape draped over his shoulders. Along with his sister, Lady Olivia Oswell, Lady of South Osrin. Lord John Gallon, Lord of Galemore and Protector of the Galmorian Woods. The elk stands from his seat, propping himself up on a cane, nodding to Adrius with a stern look. The leaves on his antlers shake as he does this. Lady Tyrrell Rayana, Lady Tyrrell Rayana, Lady of Aenor. The vixen stands from her seat and curtsies, though it's not as elegant as she looks. She sits back down just as the elk steadily manages to place himself back into his own seat. Lord William Braedon of Braedon's Vale. The small stoat stands from his seat, proudly bowing before jumping back up into his chair. The furniture scuffs against the floor as he does this. Lastly, War Minister Elizabeth Reen of Rosewind. Liz leaves her seat and climbs the steps, taking her place on the right of Adrius's throne. As the current king's advisor, she will formally be at his side during this trial. She gives a slight bow in his direction before turning to face the front. The hooded figure takes his time walking back down the steps as he takes a seat a few chairs down from Gadaj. Thank you for the introductions. The trial will now begin. On cue, all of the royal guards stamp their feet, including Lyle. Sir Lyle Reed? Lyle steps forward and gets on one knee, lowering his head. His tail is tucked between his legs, almost completely limp. My king, you may remove your helm. Lyle stands back up and slides the helmet from his head. I can hear a few people make noises of discomfort in the crowds off to the side. Adrius's expression doesn't seem to budge. You swear to tell the truth, not only as a citizen of Lyre, but as the captain of the Royal Guard? I do. Very well. As an individual who made the arrest of Lord Richter, you may describe your account of the evening and what happened to the best of your ability. As you wish. He moves to the center, standing in front of me. He beckons to the people sitting off to the sides. Most of you know that I was assigned to Lord Richter on his arrival in the Kingdom of Lyre as his personal guard. This was a decision made by King Raynar himself. In the time that I've spent with Lord Richter, they have shown no intentions of committing treason or murder. They simply did what they were requested to do by the king as a newly appointed financial advisor. Suddenly the bear on my left speaks up. Were you given any other specific duties when guarding this lord? He speaks in a very gruff voice, almost interrupting Lyle. Nothing other than protecting them and guarding their room at night, along with guiding them around the castle. They're foreign, so King Raynar wished for me to help them understand this place. As I was saying, similar to their overall time spent here, nothing out of the ordinary had happened for most of the night leading up to the murder. Richter and I attended the ball and decided to leave early. My memory serves correctly. Lord Richter left the party before you, after your dance. A few of the nobles look at Oliver as he says this. His sister stands up next to him, adding on to the statement. He left the ballroom alone, slandering us on the way out after that shameful display. I followed them almost immediately after, and I don't appreciate you. No more interruptions from the jury, please. The twins sit down, one of them waving a dismissive wing in Lyle's direction. You may continue, Lyle. I met Lord Richter at the ball, and we spent some time together before he decided to leave. After I found Richter, I escorted him back to my room, as it was closest to where I had found him, and he had caught a cold. I knew that my quarters had a fireplace that had already been lit. We stayed there for some time, not intending to return to the party. Then what happened? After a while, a servant came to my quarters saying that King Raynar had sent him to retrieve Richter. The king had business that he wished to discuss with Lord Richter. Richter left with the servant and I stayed behind, knowing that he wouldn't need a guard in Raynar's chambers. He clears his throat and continues. After some time, I went to check on Lord Richter. There were no guards posted at the entrance to his staircase. I found that a bit odd, so I ran up the stairs. When I reached the top, I found Richter, lying on the ground while Bjorn stood over them, sword drawn and attacking him. I ordered Bjorn to lay down his sword, and found out that Raynar had been killed. Sir Finn had been sent to alert the castle. I don't think it was Richter who had done it, not for a second. Even so, I arrested them and locked them in a cell. Steps back and Adrius nods his head. Very good. Describe the scene of the crime, please. Lyle steps forward and continues. Well, Raynar's chambers are at the top of the highest tower, with a spiral staircase leading up to it. The entrance usually guarded by 2 members of the Royal Guard while he's there. After examining the room, we found blood on the curtains and drapes. Other than that, there wasn't too much blood anywhere else. There was also no moisture or snow on the carpet near the window, so it's not likely it was ever opened. The body was lying on the floor behind the bed. Liz takes a piece of parchment and passes it around to the nobles. And that's interesting that they're saying that the window was never opened at any point. Because whenever Richter did have that vision of Raynar's death, where he mistakenly saw that he was the killer, Richter did mention that it felt like there was like wind blowing or that there was a draft from outside the window somehow. But according to Lyle's testament here, the window being opened just wouldn't have been possible. So that's sort of interesting. Liz takes a piece of parchment and passes it around to the nobles. Each of them looks at it and grimaces. The dagger. The dagger used in the crime was found to the left of the body. There were clear signs of a struggle, separate from the sword marks left in the floor from Bjorn's bastard sword. Raynar had clearly been caught off guard. There were rips in the drapes by the window, indicating that his antlers had torn through them during the struggle. We even found gold flakes from one of his antlers lining the tears. He pauses, taking a deep breath before continuing. He's doing a really good job so far describing the event. He's not lying about anything, and I wouldn't want him to do that. Yet he's clearly leaving out some truth. Several canine guards, along with myself, picked up scents from the room. 4 people had been in the room around the time of the murder. Sir Bjorn, Lord Kadaj, King Raynar, and of course Lord Richter. There's chatter among the crowd, but Adrius raises his hands to silence them. Is that all you have to present? For now. Adrius isn't too happy with this response, but continues anyway. You may join our guards. Lyle goes up the steps, putting his helmet back on as he takes place in the center of the guards. He looks down at me for a moment, giving a barely noticeable nod in my direction. Leith? Yes, Your Majesty? Please give your reports on the body. Of course. Leith steps forward and holds out a piece of parchment, reading off of it. When the body was examined, 2 stab wounds were found in the stomach, along with 1 in the chest. Throat had also been slit across the front. He squints his eyes, holding the parchment closer to his face. His eyes and head were positioned so that he was looking out the window. Clear signs of a struggle were found on the tips of his fingers. I can see Adrius getting a bit uncomfortable in his chair. Actually, kind of feel bad and avert my eyes. There were also tear stains on his cheeks as the body was clearly fresh. Adrius cuts him off as Leaf becomes lost in the description. Thank you, Leaf. Leaf sets back up to the side of the throne, and Liz looks to me. Lord Richter, you may now present your side of the story. I sit there for a moment, not really knowing how to start. The hall is silent, and I can almost hear my own heart beating. Putting on the spot like this is very stressful. I should at least start when Lyle and I are separated. Clear my throat and begin. Everything happened just as Sir Reed said it did. At least, according to his perspective. The servant whose name I'm not aware of came to fetch me early into the night. I told Lyle to stay behind and left for the king's chambers. He is your guard, is he not? Should he not accompany you everywhere? The servant did not accompany me, seeing that I should be able to find my way to his chambers quite easily, insinuating that I would not need a guide. I was only doing what seemed appropriate. He says nothing, waving his hand allowing me to continue. As I made my way down the hall, I came across Sir Bjorn and Sir Finn, standing guard at the entrance to the staircase. They let me pass, and I made my way up to the room. When I reached the top, there was an area with a large window on the ceiling. Ahead, there were doors, and when I entered, that's when I noticed something was off. The room was dark, and the curtains and drapes lining the ceiling blocked out all of the light. A lot of the light. I couldn't see Raynar, so I assumed he wasn't there. That's when I noticed the damage. Broken portraits, large tears to the canopy of the bed. I followed the trail of broken objects and found his body. At first, I didn't know what I was looking at. The entire scene left me shocked. I didn't know what to do and everything was spinning. What happened next? Well, as most of you know, I had been quite ill. I was having constant headaches daily, not to mention the few days I spent comatose. As soon my mind couldn't handle the sudden shock, and I began to suffer from similar pains. I tried to reach the door to warn someone and tell them what had happened. The crowd behind me, I could hear people whispering back and forth. Even nobles are talking amongst themselves. You'd think they would want to hear this. That's when Bjorn entered the room. Right on cue, I would say. Stop pointing the finger. He started by spouting off a question for Raynar, but he quickly found out something was wrong. Finn was with him at the time, but Bjorn told him to stay at the door. He found me, collapsed on the ground, and immediately rushed to Raynar's body. He assumed that I had killed him and attacked. Of course, not before sending Sir Finn away to alert the castle. That way, he could have me all to himself. If Lau hadn't arrived in time, he would have killed me on the spot. He didn't mention knocking on the door. Everyone looks up, and a few people in the crowd start whispering. I didn't. So you didn't knock on the door? Neither did Sir Bjorn. People in the crowd begin to murmur. Adrius doesn't look pleased nor convinced. When is he ever? I assume that the rest of your account is similar to Lyle's. Yes. Very good. Sir Finn, please tell us your side of the story, if you will. Finn turns around, taking off his helmet, facing the nobles and Adrius. Bjorn and I were guarding the entrance to King Raynar's chambers that night, as you know. We allowed Lord Richter to pass a few minutes before our shift exchange. Bjorn and I went up the stairs to let Raynar know that we were going to be leaving, when Bjorn found what had happened. I was told to alert the castle, and so I did. I was able to quickly find the commander of the castle guard, and alert them to the murder. Soon everyone in the castle knew. Is that all? There's one last thing. The reason Bjorn's scent was found in the room was because he would check in on Raynar every once in a while. As meat-headed as he is, he's dutiful. Each time, he returned to our post, and noticed nothing out of the ordinary. Anything else? Adrius seems bored. No, that's it. Finn places his helmet back on his head, and reassumes his position among the guards. Unfortunately, that gives Bjorn a nice alibi. Moving on, we will present some unbiased individuals who have had enough interactions with you to be able to judge your character, starting with Leaf. Where's Leaf? Leaf walks down the steps and stands in front of the throne. So far, everything seems to be going smoothly, but something feels off. Leaf, please detail your interactions with Lord Richter. Clears his throat and begins. My lords and ladies, Sir Richter has been a good friend. In the time that he's been here, he has shown nothing but kindness and understanding. He can be a bit odd at times,
but no more than the rest of the staff in this castle. I've tended to their wounds and helped him with the head pains he experiences frequently. They've been an excellent patient. Over the past few weeks, he seems to have almost blended in with the nobility residing in this castle. He has become closely acquainted with Sir Reed, and they work very well together. Not only that, but as the assigned financial advisor, I'm told that he did his job and did it well. He saved the king a lot of money with that party. He pauses, bowing before Adrius. That is all. Leaf steps back, and even though all the things he said were kind, Leaf steps back, and even though a lot of the things he said were kind, it kind of feels like it wasn't a lot. I guess we haven't gotten to know each other that well outside of him caring for me. Thank you, Sir Leaf. Please stay. I just have a few questions for you. I feel a tightness in my gut as he says this. Your Highness? A few days before the solstice, I believe an incident had happened. I ask because I wasn't there, but I'm told that it was a very theatrical incident. Richter came storming into a meeting between my father and the war minister. He started spouting off things about what happened 10 years ago, things about my mother. The assassins from the canyons also came into question. Am I correct? I want to speak up and tell him what really happened. I have a strong urge to do it, but I think the best thing to do right now is to let Leaf talk. Oh, yes. Lord Richter had been suffering from terrible nightmares lately. I merely believed that he had some sort of premonition. I heard a few people chuckle in the crowd behind me. Wish I could turn around and yell at them to shut it. What does Leaf think he's doing? He had woken frightened and confused, demanding an immediate audience with your father. Is he gonna reveal that he's like an avatar of Tygren or something? Before things could go any further, Lord Richter collapsed and fell into a bit of an unconscious state, though I assured your father that I was just letting him rest. Your father even told me himself that I might have been brought on from a story he told Richter the day before. He even admitted to me that he regretted being so open about something, knowing that it troubled Richter. Actually, he might just be saving my ass. Still, I so badly want to tell them. And yet he wasn't open. In fact, father was too detailed when it came to talking about mother. And yet Richter here knew many details. This is definitely going downhill. I want to tell everyone about Tygren and what's been happening to me, but I hold myself back. I just have to trust that Tygren is handling things, wherever they are. Although things aren't looking too good, and the more time that passes, the more I yearn for a sign from him. It is a bit amusing that Lord Richter was so interested in Elena's death. The vixen cuts in, taking a very small voice. I was very close with her, and even I'm not privy to most of what happened. In fact, Raynar barely spoke of such things. When he did, it wasn't much. I fail to see how this has anything to do with what I've been accused of. Quiet. I'm afraid you don't get to decide what's relevant. Remember, speak only when spoken to. I mentally berate myself for not holding my tongue. Still, this is a mock trial if I've ever seen one. Thank you, Leaf, for being so cooperative. I now wish to hear from Minister Elizabeth. Leaf walks back up the stairs to the side of Adrius's throne, and Liz takes his place. You may begin, Minister. At first, she doesn't say anything. She's most likely thinking about what to say and how to say it, which I honestly appreciate, knowing that my life is possibly at stake. Before the throne room can become completely silent, she speaks up. Lord Richter and I did not have the best first impression. I actually was introduced to them during the incident that Leaf described. It was not a problem at all, really, as I tried to be tolerant of things like that. I can't say I've gotten to know them too well. That would be a lie, but the interactions I've had with them have been normal for the most part. I even had time to chat with them during the solstice ball. Them being from Erin, like myself, idle chat came easily. Can't say much about what happened after that. Watched them dance with Sir Reed and they left. Even outside of this trial, I keep hearing about this dance. Why is it so important? There's a pause in the conversation, but Liz answers after a few moments of contemplation. Lord Richter and Lyle danced together shortly before leaving the party. Certain people have been spreading gossip, but that's none of my concern. As far as I know, it was a dance, nothing more. Interesting. I did not attend, but I've heard the gossip as well. Adrius looks down at me, sneering. Thank you for clearing that up. I need a good source. I'm aware that most of the people in this courtroom were present during the solstice ball. Lady Oswell? The lady stands from her seat, her winged hands resting at the center of her waist. Yes, Your Majesty? Your brother speaks so highly of your good memory. I feel like everyone else could use a nice refresher. I don't like where this is going. Not one bit. A very strong feeling that he's about to use another out-of-pocket instance to smear my image. All I can do is sit here and take it. What was it that Lord Richter said before leaving the ballroom? I've been hearing so much about this little outburst lately. My memory is as good as you say it is. I remember him saying something along the lines of, "To all of you shams who smile at me through your teeth, only to have your good opinion crushed by something so trivial, enjoy yourselves." God, really did say that. Her memory is impeccable. She doesn't have to cheat like I do. This was said after the night had been turned sour by their display. Her brother butts in, but Adrius holds up his hand, silencing the two of them. Thank you for refreshing our memories. I think it was warranted. Adrius turns to look at her, and she looks at him too. First, I'm afraid something might happen, but Adrius just quickly responds. Thank you, Minister. I now call forward Lord Kadaj. Liz walks back to the right side of the throne, and look over to see Lord Kadaj rise from his chair. He saunters up the steps, stopping where Liz was just standing. Would you have me do the same as the previous two? Yes. Very well. Turns around and shoots a glance my way. Get a feeling from him that I'm not too ecstatic about. Hopefully this isn't too bad. I'll be short and sweet about it. My exchanges with Lord Richter have been very pleasant, yes indeed. I believe that we both share a similar goal. The cooperation of the three kingdoms. I'm sorry, before you continue, I have to ask. I'm sure this is on everyone's mind, but... why were they able to pick up your scent in my father's room? It's quite simple, really. Apartment complex. King Raynar wanted to meet with me, same as he did Lord Richter. He had informed the both of us that these meetings during the party... he had informed both of us of these meetings during the party, if I remembered correctly. What was this meeting about? He only met to officially appoint me Minister of Foreign Relations, nothing more. We actually left to dance together, as he was very eager to break the news. The guards followed us to the entrance and stood aside. Raynar had no issues climbing the steps, even considering how tipsy he was. The meeting was quite short, as we mainly just needed a quiet place to discuss things. After that, I left. I'm wondering if I was going to be appointed as something more than the financial advisor. I'm not able to gauge whether Lord Richter committed this crime or not. My impression of them is that they're a good person. If that is all... King Adrius. Hal turns around from his position among the guards, taking off his helmet and facing Adrius. Yes, Sir Reed? I wish to bring a crucial piece of evidence to everyone's attention. Adrius raises an eyebrow, and everyone else in the room also seems gripped with curiosity. If it will help with this case, then I see no reason why you shouldn't. Law walks over to the table with evidence, and carefully picks up the dagger that the killer used. When he returns, he holds it out to Kadaj. Seeing the dagger makes my insides turn a bit. Kadaj is looking at Lyle, confused about what's going on. I don't really understand why Lyle would bring up the dagger now all of a sudden. The entire room is filled with hushed whispers, and through it all I spot Adrius staring at me. He's probably trying to see what reaction I have to the blade. Lord Kadaj, could you tell me if there are any qualities you notice about this dagger? Anything you might be able to point out? Kadaj gently takes the dagger from him, holding it up to his gaze by the pommel, and studying it for a moment. Lyle doesn't take his eyes off of Kadaj for a second while he does this. It is a simple dagger, most commonly used with thrusting weapons, but this one is interesting in the design of the blade, almost like a kriss. So you're familiar with a dagger like this? Yes, I have daggers similar to it. I do not know why you ask this. He hands the dagger back to Lyle, holding it by the blade. It has already been determined by our castle blacksmith that this dagger is ordinary and can be purchased in Raynar or Lyre, correct? Liz speaks up from the side of Adrius's throne. Yes, that was determined some time ago. Without a second opinion. I recently consulted a good friend of mine, a blacksmith with experience trading with all of the kingdoms. Edan of Grimrock. I look to my left and see Lord Grimdell stir in his seat. He took vital evidence to one of the village blacksmiths? Yes, it was one of the reasons Bjorn attacked me, as unwarranted as it was. I didn't hear of you getting permission to do such a thing. No, I didn't. I accept full responsibility for my actions, and any punishment that follows. Lyle did all of that? He's really sticking his neck out for me. Your punishment will be decided later. Though looking at your face, I'd say you already got your punishment, as unwarranted as it was. Continue. Lyle turns and looks down at me before continuing. Adon said that assuming this dagger would be forged and bought in a place like Lyre or Erin is a very common mistake. The origin of this dagger, however, is Dry's. Surprisingly, the crowd behind us is silent, listening to what he has to say. Typically paired with thrusting swords, this dagger can also be used by itself in grappling. Kadaj lets out a scoff, but Lyle ignores him. Thrusting swords were invented in Lyre and became exceedingly popular in northern Erin. However, that does not rule out the fact that a rondel dagger could come from Dry's. That is the case with this dagger. How can you tell? Looks very plain to me. The guard and the pommel of this dagger are made of Erenimite. It's not gold. The crowd breaks the silence and begins to spread whispers throughout the room. They sure are getting their entertainment. Erenimite, for those of you who don't know, is mined in the south. It is of a similar quality to gold, but equally rare. It's hard to distinguish. He draws his sword from the sheath on his back and holds it out to the crowd. Just as rare as Vekrite. Adrius leans back in his throne, his eyes trained on the blade, but his expression is the same as it's been for the past few minutes. Lyle holds up the dagger. This blade is from Dry's, and it is unlikely that Lord Richter would have come into possession of it. Only someone who has the highest class of noble will own something of this quality. Lord Kadaj, do you fence? What exactly are you implying? He's implying nothing. Adrius leans forward in his throne, his eyes finally leaving the dagger and falling upon Kadaj. However, what do you have to say about this, Lord Kadaj? Kadaj pokes his finger into Lyle's chest, his claw clinking against the metal. Yes, I fence. I participated in many duels back in Dry's. However, if the rondel dagger is a rapier's best friend, then the parrying dagger is its wife. It is known that I much prefer those two weapons together. He lets out a scoff. Honestly, accusing me of using such a civilian tactic. Kadaj doesn't even care that Lyle just accused him. He only seems to care about his reputation and his choice of weapon. The crowd seems to find this funny. There's an uproar of laughter, and even a few of the nobles are giggling behind their hands. Lyle stands there, shocked, but quickly regains his composure. This killer didn't use his dagger with the sword. He only used the dagger by itself. Lyle, enough. clothes on my back are from Dry's. The plates we eat off are from Aaron. Even if this dagger is from Dry's, it doesn't change anything. I think it changes everything. Richter is not wealthy enough to purchase a foreign treasure like this from an Aryan market, let alone going to Dry's and getting it himself. Why do you say that? Until recently, they've never been outside of their own kingdom. As far as I know, they've only recently become a noble. That's the part I find most odd in all of this. There's too many questions I have about his origin that simply go unanswered. That's not the point. Send for Adon, he'll explain it better than I ever could. I'd rather hear from the person who sold this knife, but I'm afraid that's just not possible. Lyle, I humored your request out of fairness, but this is ridiculous. Fairness? My voice sends an echo up towards the throne, bouncing off of the wall behind it. The three standing before me turned and looked down, having almost forgotten I was there. You speak of fairness, yet this entire trial is botched. Be quiet. I grow tired of this mockery. Shut up. I did not kill your father, but if it will put a smile on your face, kill me now and be done with it. Stop talking. I'll participate in the charade no longer. Silence. Adrius yells this, his words bouncing off of the walls, the entire audience silent as the grave. Lyle's looking down at me, shocked and nervous. Then dawns a face of disappointment. Kadaj was shocked at first, but now he seems to be studying the scene as it plays out. Both of you, return to your places. Kadaj begins to walk over, returning to his seat. Lyle stands there for a moment, before reluctantly taking his position among the guards. Before Kadaj can return to his seat, I call out to him. You once asked where my allegiances lie. Adrius drolls his head in my direction, but says nothing to stop me. Where do yours lie? Kadaj stops walking, standing in place. His tail swishes side to side before turning around to look at me. With Tygren, Richter. He takes his seat. Adrius begins talking as if nothing had happened. There's one more individual I would like to question before anyone gives their verdict. What else could he possibly bring up? If I recall, that's everyone I interacted with that night. I call upon the servant. The one who tended to Lord Richter the night of the solstice. What? What could he possibly contribute to this? It's the boy. His eyes are very red. Is he sleepy? Is he a sleepy guy? The servant stands up from their chair and begins to make their way over. I hadn't noticed him until now, as he was sitting towards the back. Might have noticed him when I entered the room if my mind wasn't already overwhelmed by everything else. At this point, I'm sure Adrius has already won. Why would he even need to go any further? Especially pulling a card like this. Makes no sense. Before I can come up with a conclusion myself, I look over to Lyle. Instead of facing forward like the rest of the guards, he turns his head in my direction. I can't really see his face behind his helmet, but I get the feeling he knows what Adrius is up to. The Badger walks up to the side of the hall and takes their place in front of Adrius at the bottom of the second row of steps. They turn around to look at me, their expression neutral. I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. Please, state your name. Is it Gerald or Harold? Gerard? Gerard. Guys, this guy has a name. Guys, I can't believe Nameless Servant actually has a name. Gerard? It's Gerard, Your Highness! Could you please describe the events of the night and what happened? Please be sure not to leave out any details. Adrius, this man was never questioned. What are you... Adrius turns to her, raising his hand. Please, continue. The servant bows low, swinging their arms out behind their back. Of course, Your Highness. I've been one of the servants tending to Lord Richter for a while now. Of course, most of the time, it doesn't really feel that way. You see, Lord Richter rarely accepts the help of servants, leaving most of his tasks up to himself. Of course, it's not something I'm unfamiliar with. Your father was the same way.
Glances back at me, but Adrius cuts in.
Don't look at him, just tell me what you know.
Gerard lowers his hand and continues. Gerard?
I was asked to retrieve Lord Richter for his meeting with King Raynar. Knowing that he had already left the ball, I went searching for him in his quarters, but our lord was not there. Assuming he had already known about the meeting, I guessed that he had already left for it. That wasn't until I remembered his close relationship with Sir Reed. I figured I would go and check the good knight's quarters, to see if he knew where Lord Richter had gone.
Adrius shoots a look at Lyle, but Gerard continues.
When I arrived at the door, I heard something I believe I shouldn't have. At the time, I didn't really understand what I was hearing, but looking back on it, it all makes sense. Whispers about the king.
What? That is not true. Quiet.
I had only figured it out then, but I foolishly brushed it off. I assumed Lord Richter was only talking with Sir Lyle about the audience he would have with the king soon. The other thing I found odd was the fact that Lord Richter was with Sir Lyle in his own chambers. As his guard, I should be known that Sir Lyle would accompany Lord Richter to his chambers.
He was ill. Silence, Lyle.
I did not wish to be so rude by lingering outside the door for too long, so I knocked on it. It took a while for them to answer, and heard whispers from the other side. Once the door opened, however, How should I go about this? Lord Richter was standing before me, with his mussed clothes and hair. Sir Lyle was practically naked when I caught a glance at him through the doorway.
Several people in the crowd gasp, and a few of the nobles scoff and groan at hearing this. The feeling I had in the ballroom is starting to come back. The embarrassment and humiliation. I look to my left and see Liz with her face in her hand.
It was quite a sight.
Why is the servant lying about me? Could it be that they're the killer? No, that doesn't make any sense.
Don't tell me that they actually...
Disgusting. I hear a chair scoot across the floor as Kadaj stands from his seat.
I fail to see how this has anything to do with the problem at hand. Even if it's true, I see no issue with it. Well, of course you wouldn't. I've heard scandalous stories about you two. Scandalous stories that died a bit too soon, if you ask me.
Kadash sneers at her.
Stories? Keaton and I are that famous? I'll be sure to let him know.
Quiet, everyone. The throne room quiets down and Kadash takes his seat, along with the others. Finish your story. Gerard's shoulders slouch and he continues. I look over at Lyle and he's fuming.
I informed Lord Richter about the meeting and then left. I thought nothing of the whispers and plots at the time, but I should have known. I'm so sorry, Your Majesty. Please forgive me.
There is nothing to forgive. Thank you for your account. You may return to your seat. Gerard begins to walk down the steps and off to the side, but Lyle throws off his helmet. This is ridiculous. He's lying. None of that happened. You've spoken out of turn too many times. You're going to silence yourself before I replace your helmet with a muzzle, do you understand? Lyle opens his mouth to say something, but looks at me and steps back. With this, Gerard walks back to his chair. Good. My legs feel weak as I look around the throne room and glance at the nobles, and most of them are looking at me with a scornful gaze. Liz is the only one who looks concerned. Adrius turns to them and speaks. My lords and ladies, it is time for you to cast your verdict. This child sucked ass. Slowly, each of the nobles stands for their chair, Liz being the last to stand. At this point, I feel empty.
All I can do is glance around the room and hope things turn for the better. Look over at Leaf. His head is hanging low, and I can tell he doesn't like where this is going either. We're going to start with you, Minister Elizabeth. The throne room is dead silent, and I see her look up at Adrius with a pleading face before looking down. I vote that he's innocent. She says it almost like she's asking a question. Those words were a nice bit of validation, but it wasn't enough to quell my dread. The next noble, the small stoat, raises his paw slightly and gives his verdict. I vote that this young man is innocent. There's clearly something more sinister at play here. I mean no offense towards your late father, your majesty, but please consider this possibility. Another innocent verdict. Adrius glares at Lord Braden, but makes no move for a rebuttal. He has this look on his face like he knows with absolute certainty what the results will be. Even if he doesn't, I know what his answer will be. I have a feeling that I know what the other nobles' verdicts are. That feeling has poisoned my stomach, and I have a feeling it will kill me with their final vote. Guilty. Before I even realize it, Lady Rihanna has raised her paw and cast her vote. He was taken red-handed, and is clearly demented in some way. Before I can even want to deny her claim, Lord Gallon bangs his cane on the floor. Innocent. I can only hope that true justice will be delivered. He looks at Adrius as he says this, his long beard shaking with each word. It is what your father would have wanted. Another lord who thinks I'm innocent. Guilty. Guilty. 2 more votes. They were fast, too, without any explanation. It's even now. Lord Grimdell stands from his chair, his seat scooting back as his large body rises into the air, towering above all. I vote this boy guilty. I feel my air leave my lungs as my chest tightens. 3 voted innocent, 4 voted guilty. I fall to my knees and look down at the ground. No. I hear Lyle let out a faint groan across the steps, but it sounds muffled. In fact, my ears are ringing and my entire body feels numb. He didn't do it, you! I hear Lyle begin to run up the steps, but I see 2 guards rush him down and grab him by the arms. Nobody says anything at first. All that can be heard is armor grinding against armor and Lyle's grunts. Lyle, I will have you removed from this room if I hear another word out of you. Do you understand? He says this in a cold voice. Never heard him speak like that. I just kept looking down at the ground, hoping everyone will just forget about me. Maybe Adrius will just throw me in a cell for a long time. At this point, I wish I could just go back to my cell. I hear footsteps approaching me from ahead, and they sound like hooves. They stop, and a few moments later, Adrius addresses me in another sharp tone. Look at me. It doesn't register at first, but after a few seconds I look up to see him standing over me. Lord Richter, you have been found guilty of the murder of King Raynar Ossian. This includes treason, regicide, crimes against peace, and the sowing of discord throughout our great kingdom. And I'm afraid mental agony is not an excuse for such a crime. His words rub deep into my skin, but I can't feel the anger. Everything is still numb, and I can't stop thinking about just going back to my cell and curling up into a ball. My head is even starting to hurt again. I feel as if everyone's eyes are on me. Figures I can't even see. As I said before, the 2 of us are very different. This is all just a game to you. If I'm being honest, you're right to believe that. It's how it's portrayed in this cruel world. He looks over at Lyle, and then looks to the nobles standing on the left, before bringing his gaze back to me. Our profession has always been seen as a game. Some are better at playing it than others. He bends down so that his eyes are level with mine, and lowers his voice to a whisper. You've always been my opponent in this little game of ours. Ever since the day you and that cat arrived here. In my opinion, it only makes sense that you would arrive at such drastic measures so soon, and I'm afraid you've lost. Another pain in the sides of my head hit me. He stands back up, throwing his cape back behind his shoulder. Don't feel bad about it, though. You did your best, and I don't blame you for trying to get away with it. Those who are out of their element often have to live by one's wits. What? My eyesight is taken for a moment, and I feel my body pulled away from reality. Before I can even realize what's happening, I'm thrown to the ground, crashing into a hard object. All I can do is cough and sputter as my body slumps against the wall behind me. Fear, anger, shock, and sadness. These emotions overwhelm me on a scale that I'm not even capable of comprehending. Or maybe I'm just numb to it. Tears rush down my face, and I can taste blood in my mouth. The back of my head carries immense pain. One of my arms feels limp. My other arm is clasped on my stomach, blood pumping out of the fresh wounds and seeping to my clothes. The thick crimson substance floods out between my fingers, staining the golden brown fur. Standing over me is him, a figure clad in a dark leather cloak, brandishing a slender and vicious dagger, both dripping with blood. Through the unbearable pain, I catch a glimpse at their face only for a split second. Raynar coughs up blood and reaches out a hand, the arm shaking and weak. Please. The figure kneels down, swatting the hand away. The hand Raynar was extending to his son. There's no way. Hadrius. He leans in, pushing Raynar's head back by its antlers, and drags the knife across his neck. It cuts deep, and it feels just as real as last time. The pain is awful, and I can feel my grip on reality fading. How did this happen, though? Where are his antlers? Had he already grown them back by that? He had already grown them back by that point, right? No, this isn't possible. He wasn't there. He wasn't. As Hadrius lets go of Raynar's head, it slumps back into its recent position, and Raynar looks up at him. Hadrius looks angry, but scared at the same time. His eyes are wide open, and I can't get an accurate read on his expression. It's like he's conflicted or lost, gritting his teeth and looking back with regret. No, he's just a coward. A weak, spineless coward. It's confusing and the pieces aren't all there, but this has to be a sign from Tygren. I know Hadrius did it. I know in my bones. As the life leaves Raynar's body, I can feel all of the anger and hate from the past weeks rushing into my own. When you have nothing left, revenge no longer seems like the worst option. It couldn't be helped. Ha! Yelling at the top of my lungs without hesitation, I push myself out of my kneeling position, lunging forward at the deer. Oh my gosh. I hear the impact before I can even feel it on my fist. You bastard! My knuckles smash into the side of his muzzle, spinning his jaw as he's thrown back. I have to throw the punch using both of my hands as they're chained together, but it lands just as hard. The chain from the shackles flings out and whips across the face. The chain from the shackles flings out and whips him across the face, slinging blood out into the floor, along with the blood that spits out of his mouth. Hadrius! Your Majesty! Hear Liz and Leaf yell out, along with several nobles and everyone in the crowd letting out shocked gasps of terror. I collapse to the ground, feeling like all of the energy I had left was spent doing that. His crown flies off of his head, landing onto the ground near me. Immediately, I notice that the gem on the top has cracked, bits of it scattered across the floor. I don't have much time to think about why I did it, and what's going to happen next though. Hadrius stumbles back, dazed and confused, before tripping over the step. Hadrius! Oh my god! I try to rise into a kneeling position and look up at what made that sound. As I get on one knee, 2 guards tackle me to the ground, forcing me onto my knees. Even with the force of 2 men pushing me down, I still managed to glimpse at what I had done. Adrius is propping himself up against the stairs, eyes full of shock. Blood rushes down the side of his head from where his antler snapped off, dripping onto his clothes. There's a large cut on the bridge of his snout, and his nose is bleeding. Must have hit his head on the steps and broken the antler. He tries to rush to his side, but Adrius pushes him away. Get away from me! He looks at me, his eyes filled with rage. I've never seen him like this. I've never seen him like this. Arrest him. Arrest him now. Take him back to his cell where he can rot. He's the one who did it. Lyle, I was right the first time. He killed him. I feel a guard's arm wrap around my head as they try to gag me. Lyle! I look around the room, but I don't see him anywhere. Liz and Leaf are standing there shocked. Leaf slowly inching towards Adrius, trying to help him. It was him! Adrius The guard shoves what I think is a rag into my mouth, pulling on both sides and tightening it. The nobles are rushing to Adrius' side, and the crowd behind us is in a commotion. I hear people running around and adding more to the chaos. Adrius, please, let me... Where's Lyle? This comes out as a whisper, and I almost pick up a hint of fear in his voice at not knowing where Lyle is. Where is that dog? I want to put him down now. Where is he? Don't just stand around, find him. Liz, have the gates to the city closed. Nobody is getting in or out until that mud is found. 2 guards lift me and start to drag me out of the throne room. Your head will roll in the dirt, bastard. Everything feels like it's moving at half the speed, and all I can do is watch as the chaos ensues. Let go of me. I try to wiggle out and stop the guards, but as I do it, one of them brings their fist back and slams it into my face. Plot punch. Chapter 12, Day 38. Guys, that trial sucked ass. It was Adrius. Adrius killed his papa. But guys, this little baby Adrius, he would never do such a thing. He would never kill his papa. Aww. Aww. Well. I don't know. That's fucked up. I guess everything's going to shit now. I wonder if Richter hadn't last shot against Adrius there, what the... I mean, Adrius probably would have still had Richter executed anyway, maybe? I don't know. It's hard to tell. Will be Adrius. Aw. Well, that's fucked up. And we didn't hear at all from Tygren. We can only assume Tygren has something planned. Has something planned for Richter, hopefully. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I guess we'll have to find out next time. Okay, if I have to make one prediction about what happens in the story moving forward, I think, like, Tygren is gonna do something where he can, like, intervene and, like, save Richter, but at the cost of, like, Richter losing his, like, avatar powers. Or something like that. I think something along those lines might happen, but I'm not sure. Because I don't really know how they get out of this one. Dang it. Man, Adrius really was a bad guy. Like, even though Adrius, like, sucks, he was starting to become one of my favorite characters. I don't know. Adrius just has this energy that I kind of really like. I think I said this the first time we met Adrius, but he reminds me of Ash from Fantastic Mr. Fox, if you've ever seen that movie. But I don't know. I guess we'll see how Richter gets out of this one next time. Thank you guys. Bye.